Good evening, everyone. I'm Bishop David Austin. Thank you for joining us tonight for Signs of the Times. Let's go live tonight with Apostle Aaron McNair. Good evening again, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, this beautiful Friday that the Lord has made. It's not beautiful because of the weather on the outside, but it's beautiful because He made it, and we have been blessed to see another Friday. I want to thank you for allowing us to join you tonight. Thank you for allowing us to be able to be with you. We've had a spectacular week this week. I'm telling you, this has been an unbelievable week here on Signs of the Time. On Monday, Elder Prince Woodbury out of Charlotte came and talked to us about the homelessness situation dealing with this coronavirus. On Tuesday, my goodness, I don't know what to say. Bishop Tyrone Smith out of Baltimore, Maryland came on and had us scratching our hair. On Wednesday, the little hair that we have left from scratching it, Apostle Brian Keith Williams came on here and blew us out of the water. I'm still receiving inbox messages and YouTube views. The show that what the man of God was talking about, and he was just amazing. On last night, Indiana, and we talked from a perspective at his house in Stokey Carmichael. We need to do on behalf of this upcoming generation. It was a wonderful show. We've been having a wonderful week, and we're going to close it out tonight with a powerful man of God who's going to give us a wonderful perspective. Listen, my friends, I want to challenge you during this broadcast. I want to challenge you to type your comments and questions for Apostle McNair in the box. Type your questions, type your comments, challenge him, put him on the spot, make him answer your questions, make him do what he has to do tonight. Listen, my friends, not only that, but I want you to hit the share button during the broadcast. Let's get this message out that Apostle McNair is going to share with us tonight. We're going to talk about these things, and other people need to hear that. I also want to challenge you to go to YouTube and search Sign of the Times, David Bright Austin, Sign of the Times, David Bright Austin. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm telling you, all of the shows that we have are listed on YouTube, where you can pick out a special guest. All of our guests, from Dean Hunter, from Bishop Kevin Adams from Bishop Noel Jones, and we'll have this one on there right after the show that you can go on and do it. I'm excited about this week. Before I bring Apostle McNair on, I also want to challenge you not only to hit the share button, not only to go to YouTube and like and subscribe, not only to type your comments and questions, but I want to challenge you to be safe. We're going to talk about being safe in a minute. We're going to talk about why. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for our guest tonight. I'm ready to bring him on and hear what he has to say to us. I'm excited. I want to just sit and hear and discuss and see what he has to say to make us better during these times. So I want you to join me tonight. Hit the like button as we bring on Apostle Aaron McNair. Apostle, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us tonight. We know that you're very busy, and it means so much to myself, and I'm sure our viewers, that you would take time to sit with us tonight and share your wisdom.
Bishop, it's my honor to be with you on tonight, man. I've been following your broadcasts, and you've had some powerful lectures going on, man. And I'm just proud to be a part of what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started, because we're going to start with a question that I have for you.
Okay. Bishop, Apostle McNair right here in the eastern part of North Carolina. I pastor a church in Farmville, North Carolina, Mount Moriah Community Church, as well as Mount Calvary Church in Raleigh, North Carolina. Also presiding prelate over Life Changing Ministry International Fellowship. We got about 60 churches in our fellowship, and the Lord is blessing. We're growing still, and we're expanding different types of ministries, and we are reinventing ourselves now that COVID-19 is changing the look of the church.
All right. Yes, sir. Change the look of the church and the look of the world.
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir. That being said, Apostle, let's jump into it. You mentioned COVID-19. I posted something yesterday. I said that we're dealing with a couple of things in the world and particularly in house in this country. And I said this, and I want you to take and comment, and we can go in this direction. I said that COVID-19 and racism are twins.
Our twins, I read it.
The reason that twins is because most people, they don't think it exists until it affects them.
Right.
Is that true?
Bishop, it is true. It is true. And even right now, the numbers in North Carolina, 39,481 still climbing. Right here in my own county, Pitt County, 439 cases belong to us. We've had 2 deaths, 265 what they call recovered cases. And that doesn't mean that they're healed, just mean that the people who had been diagnosed with are feeling better. But we see that most people live oblivious to it, and you can tell that by when you go in public, those that are not taking any type of precautions. And I'm looking at the black and white people as I go out. Those who look at you as if something's wrong with you when you have a face mask on,
Yes.
or when you're wiping down the cart with a sanitary a pad or something before you take it, and they're
Mm-hmm.
looking at you as if you're strange. I
Mm-hmm.
had an opportunity to talk to a white gentleman inside of Lowe's, and he asked me about my face mask, and I said I don't go anywhere without it. He said, "Well, don't you believe part of this is a hoax?" I said, "Sir, when you see death numbers climbing well over 100,000, that's nothing to say it's a hoax about.
Right.
Death is real."
It is. It is. People, why do you think do you think, and I kind of want to ask this question and maybe cross categorize this conversation. Do you think that the reason why people don't think that it's a serious virus is because it was deemed to be a virus that only attacks the African American community?
Let me assure you that that's majorly what it is. And notice I said that in Lowe's of the white gentleman that approached me without a face mask
Okay.
on,
I didn't
you
catch
know.
that.
And
I didn't catch that.
sometimes, we don't believe things are existing until it hits our house, until it hits our
Mhm.
family member, until someone in our family dies, someone that we love and we care for. It takes them out, and then the light bulb goes off that maybe this is real, you know.
Mhm.
I don't have to have it come to my house. I can look at this nation to see what it's doing to know that it is real.
Mhm.
Um, some people live as if one of the worst things they could do, as well as the greatest thing they could do, was tell how disproportionate the effects of COVID-19 is according to race. But
Mhm.
when they did that, they also somehow or another psychologically released the white culture to believing it's a black folk disease, it's the black folk virus, you
Mhm.
know. And so the majority of the people that you see, that I see in public, that are going without any type of protection, that are loosely handling COVID-19 is our white brothers and sisters.
Apostle, I want to ask you this uh, question. My cousin, I'm sure you know my cousin. I'm not bragging on him, and I don't like to tell people we're related because they may look at me funny. Bishop Sandy Burks and I cousins. I don't
My
want to
friend
tell
and
him.
brother.
I don't tell anybody we're related. We were talking. Bishop Burks and I were talking about that very thing, and he said something that made me say, you know what, you're on to something. He said a lot of the times the numbers that they're looking at in regards to the African American numbers are skewed because those numbers are coming from cities that your northern cities like Chicago and Detroit, where you have a
Exactly.
heavily populated African American
Exactly.
community
Exactly.
that work in factories and plants that don't have the advantage or the opportunity, should I say, to work from home.
Mhm.
So because they don't work corporate jobs to work from home, they have to go to work and they're catching and the numbers are rising.
That's right. That's right. And see, they are catching it. The numbers are rising, and we have to redefine what we call essential workers.
Okay.
All right, because these persons that are in factories that has been deemed to go back to work, but yet the virus has shot through the poultry plants, the virus has shot through chicken plants, and these are the persons that has been highly, highly affected. Your Roses workers, your Kmart workers,
Mm-hmm.
your Dollar General workers, which is heavily populated with African American employees. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we got ready to feed essential workers, we went in a total different direction. We went in the direction of what's not considered in the media as essential workers, but those
Mm-hmm.
who have been highly affected.
Mm-hmm.
So we're giving our coupons to factory workers.
Wow. Yeah.
We're telling them we recognize that, as you said, you can't work from home. You have to be out here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, young friend of mine who just diagnosed with COVID-19 works at a poultry industry right here in North Carolina, in Lewiston, North Carolina. And the sad thing about that, Bishop, is that when she was diagnosed, being a head supervisor, she was sent home, but yet she could not broadcast to her team members why she was sent home or why she was home, you
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, to set off the alarm to everyone else who's been in contact with me that you need to be tested or you need to be quarantined. When you got a lead person, a supervisor who's in contact with everyone under their care, and then that
Mm-hmm.
person in authority who's touching everybody is
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed with COVID-19, but she has to shut up lest she shut the plant down.
Wow.
But then you have what? More infected people who were
Right.
not allowed to take precaution because of one person that was affected.
Wow.
And this is real stuff, man.
It is. It is. I will always liken it to the visit to the doctor in which you get the antibiotic and the doctor says to you, you got to take this for
Take it
10
off.
days.
Hmm.
And then after day 7, you start feeling better. And 3, 4 weeks later, you look in the bottle, you still have 3 pills that you didn't take because you were feeling better. Is that what is happening in America? Because we felt like it had leveled off. So we've gone back to work, took it and just as if it's over now.
Well, Bishop, that's part of it. The other thing, look at my state. Look at North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the numbers, and the
Mm-hmm.
governor put us on a 3-stage reopening of our state. All
Mm-hmm.
right. After stage 1, he should have erased it because he saw the numbers climbing.
Right. Right.
He saw the numbers climbing. Then going to stage 2 with the numbers steadily climbing. When do we stop and put this thing in reverse and say shut the state back down?
Will we do that? Let me see. Let me see. Just 1 second, Apostle. Give me 1 second, because I have a question for you. I have a question for you. Let me see what I have here. Do you think that this has anything to do with your answer that you just asked me?
Oh yes, sir. Oh yes,
I
sir.
don't know how
Yes,
whether you
sir.
can
I
see
see it.
that.
Yes, sir. The Benjamins speak. And the Benjamins speak at the cost of how many lives, and not only at the cost of how many lives, but which lives are predominantly affected by COVID-19. For the sake of the dollar, we'll bury more black people.
Mm-hmm.
For the sake of the dollar,
Right.
we'll keep the chicken plant open. For the sake of the dollar, we'll keep the poultry plant open, where you have the majority of African American workers who are working in these places. But the state must be reopened, regardless of the numbers that are climbing.
So are we what are is the black workers, black citizens, are we considered collateral damage?
Let me tell you something. We're collateral damage, and the worst thing is, and my good friend, Dr. Barber, and I was discussing this. The worst thing is they understand what they're doing, and in the process of doing that, they have not given a living wage increase. They have not given essential workers increase. They have not given a health risk increase, and so they're putting the lives of our African American brothers and sisters at risk, and no compensation,
Hmm.
although there can be no compensation for the loss of life. But anytime you're working in a threatening arena, you often compensated for the danger of the job.
Right. Can you repeat that again? Say that again.
Yes. Anytime you're working in an arena where there is a high risk of your health and your life, you're often compensated to be working in that environment.
And that's
And that's not
apparently
happening.
that's not happening.
That's not happening.
So do you think we're viewed as worth not
Hey,
worth lit? Well,
sir, everything is working together. You said COVID-19 and racism is working together.
hmm,
And you can put it together right here. Those things are devaluing the value of the black life.
hmm, we we as a people tend to be, and I hope I'm pronouncing this word. I don't mean to use a big word, but when I'm trying to say mono-optic in the sense that we only can see, we're nearsighted.
Yeah.
We only can see one thing at a time. We're nearsighted. Do you think that Black America can only see one thing at a time, and that we're only looking at the virus, or we're only looking at racism? Why can't we step back and see that, like you just said, both things are working together simultaneously?
Oh yes. And sometimes we are tunnel vision. Sometimes we
Mhm.
are looking at what's up close and not looking at through a wide lens to see what all of this is doing to us, not only in the short run, but in the long run. You know, the sad thing is that we don't see the potential when we look at the news media of your choice and you see the 100,000 plus people that are dying. We have an inability to see our potential of joining that number.
Mhm.
And so
Right.
we continue going as we're going, as if we're invincible, or that it's a necessity that I succumb. I told my wife this right here, and I know everyone cannot do this, Bishop, but I told her this right here. My wife is an essential worker. She's
Okay.
she's a registered nurse,
Mhm.
and so for the facilities that she's working for, and I felt like she was not getting the proper PPE, personal protective equipment. I
Mhm.
told her this right here, baby. I'd rather you come home and
Mhm.
let God be Jehovah Jireh. Because I don't plan to bury my wife. I want you to be able to see further
Mhm.
than an income.
Right. Right. And like you said, most people can't do that. But my question, if people could do that, do you think they would? Because we as a people, we want to feel important, needed, which is what essential is,
Yeah,
that I'm needed.
yeah.
And some people would just take their own lives and just take it as a risk because we feel needed.
Sir, sadly to say, I believe you're right on the money with that. And I believe that some people feel like they're essential and have a need to feel essential,
Hmm.
you know, and at the risk of their own health, their own life.
Hmm. Wow. That's sad. Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad, but it's a reality.
And the lives of those around, because a lot of times, I don't know whether you're aware of the report that came out from the South, from the schools in the South, where a lot of athletes are coming up asymptomatic, and the debate is whether or not you can spread it as you're asymptomatic. uh, but just look at the number of cases that are potentially going to be rising now that you have all of these protests and demonstrations going forth, with a lot of younger people who are healthy but still have the thing. What, from an apostolic view, what do you see that's going on with this virus? And then we'll get into racism in a minute, because we said they're twins. At this point of the game, we can't talk about one without talking about the other.
That's right. That's right. A couple of things, Bishop. Um, when I look at this thing, it's creating a psychological shutdown with many people.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, because everything connects together. You
Okay.
know, I was dealing with a situation the other day of a woman who's dealing with COVID-19. She does not have it, but she's affected in a way that we are overlooking. And that is that you may not catch the virus, but
Hmm.
many people are being affected psychologically by the potential of catching the virus. And
Okay.
so now, her, along with other people, are facing depression. They are facing sleepless nights. She said she had to go to the doctor and they put her on Zoloft. She made some conversation with me and said that her sister in Baltimore and some other persons are going through the same thing. So we are missing this right here because, number one, how many people is being affected psychologically by the fear of COVID-19 for those who are respecting it, who has been shut in, but the four walls are closing in on them. One of the things she said to me that was most powerful, she says, I'm single, I live alone, and the silence in my house is too loud.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
says, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. I feel like I'm going crazy. But how many more people join in with that? And here's the
Hmm.
thing, for those who are, again, disproportionate, who do not have the medical insurance, who do not have the ability to go to the doctors, and most of our doctor visits are now virtual and not actual in person
Hmm.
with a therapist, so they're having to deal with this on their own. She saw her doctor over the telephone video, and he wrote her prescription for Zoloft. But what about you see what I'm saying? It's affecting us in more than one way. And for the poor people, it takes a greater toll who cannot and do not have the means to see a doctor.
Wow. What do you think? And I'm going to ask you a question now that I don't think that I've asked it. I haven't heard it. I haven't discussed it. I haven't heard anyone discuss it. I'm just thinking about it. I want to lay this out there to you. Do you think that that COVID-19, again, we're going to get to racism. They're
Yeah,
twins.
yeah, yeah.
Has it affected crime any?
Let me tell you this, Bishop. On the street leading to my house, there is a gun shop there where they
Okay.
sell firearms.
Hmm.
Every night, this man takes his SUV, backs it up to the door of his store. Around the back is another van to the door. So the next day, I thought about asking, why are you doing this? He says, because everyone is either buying a gun or stealing guns. Why? He says, because everything is going to become very edgy. People are going to become very edgy,
Hmm.
and crime will go up,
Hmm.
and I believe that. I believe that because if we just said that they're opening up these places for the sake of money, if they have to shut it down, and then the government doesn't give stimulus, listen here, wherever there is sincere poverty, there's always high crime.
That's right. That's right.
And so if we have no means to obtain it one way, if I can't buy it, I steal it.
Let's talk about the twin. Because the twin says what you said, if where there's poverty, there's high poverty, there's crime, is part of the reason why there's such poverty, is that because of the fact that systematic racism has caused us to be in a situation so that when something like this has hit, we don't have a choice.
Sir, the suffering, the COVID-19 exposes some things, but did not generate some things because the poor people was already suffering before COVID-19, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and racism in one way or the other has always been here. All right.
Right.
And
Right.
so when you're dealing with poor people and you're dealing with social injustices, you know, all of this stuff is being magnified through COVID-19. But let's move COVID-19 out of the way
All
and
right.
realize that the injustices have always been there.
Yes.
Let's move George Floyd out of the way and
Mhm.
say, hey, this has always been there. George Floyd was just a straw that broke the camel's back to make
Right.
America face what it has been turning its head from.
Right. Yes, sir. I heard someone make a comment. They said if you don't like us rioting and demonstrating, ignore it. The
Huh?
same reason, the same way you've ignored why we're rioting and demonstrating.
Sir, let me tell you something. I've been thinking about this conversation with us all day long. And I said, let me write something down. And I wrote that here that the racism in America, and the rioting that's going on. And everybody say, how do you connect the marching and the rioting and make it work together and say that it's right? America has been non-responsive to poor people's pain, poor people's suffering, social injustices. Listen, no penalty for police brutality, disregard for the value of black lives. America has been numb to our pain. So for someone to make the suggestion, turn your head, the problem is America has been turning its head long enough.
That's right.
And so now the riot is to say, you no longer turn your head. The march is to
Hmm.
say, you no longer turn your head.
Hmm.
This is the way where we're stopping America from turning. You have to face now what you have been numb to.
Hmm.
Poor people didn't just rise up. They've
No.
been here,
No.
you know. But America has become numb to the reality that it's facing.
Do you think, Apostle? Do you think that we're so frustrated? And because I'll use this term because you're Apostle McNair and not just Aaron McNair, I can hear the righteous indignation in your voice. Do you think we've gotten so frustrated? I posted the other day. I said, "Listen, we're not suggesting that Black lives matter. We're telling you they matter."
That's right.
I said that to say we're not. We've had it up to here.
Oh yeah.
I think I think Dr. King's generation. I think all the way back from Rosa Parks and Medgar Evers, and I think they were all fed up. The problem is back then America couldn't see what they saw with that video of one of us being murdered. And I think we got fed up. Do you think we got fed up to the point where we just went crazy and start tearing up our cities, and now we have to face the reality of I've got nowhere to shop, I've got nowhere to buy my now I've got to go into the white community and buy my bologna and bread and hot dogs.
The rioting. Martin Luther King said in his speech, Another Kind of America, he says, when you see people rioting,
Hmm.
he said, it is because that is the only voice that America will hear.
Hmm.
Up until the riot, he says, what have America not heard?
Hmm.
That now that we're throwing rocks in your window,
Hmm.
now that we are breaking in your stores, now that
Hmm.
we're burning up your money-making businesses, now all of a sudden you can hear. So he says rioting is just a result of a time when America would not hear.
Question. You didn't hear. Isn't it funny how you can hear, what is it called, selective hearing, where you can
Oh
hear
yeah,
one
yeah.
thing?
Selective hear. You hear what you want to hear.
You didn't hear in 1921 when you bombed and blew up Tulsa, Black
Yeah,
Wall Street. You blew that up. You burned that up.
that's right.
I mean, but now you have something to say.
But because then we blowing up. Listen, I you know, I had to really pull my thoughts together with the rioting
Hmm.
versus the peaceful protesting. Martin Luther helped me to come to grips with it, you know, uh, to come to have a good understanding as to why they go from peaceful protesting to rioting.
Hmm.
You know, um, peaceful protesting is good.
Hmm.
It's always good. But people have, as you said, selective hearing in the protests.
Hmm.
But when that fire break out,
Oh yeah.
everybody from the White House to the local houses are listening now. And then they come back, what is it that they want? Well, you know what? They wanted something before they started marching.
Right.
They wanted something before they started protesting.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted something before they lit the match.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you had selective hearing.
Selective hearing. I mean, what as an apostle, from your view, I have a comment up here from Dartez Wright, who was on our program last night, the young man that's been with us a couple of times. He said 58% of our young people are unemployed. I believe mass evictions are next. What happens now that you have companies such as the latest that Starbucks is closing? I believe it's 4,000 stores or something like that across the nation because the virus, not the racial. Again, I hope we don't overbeat this horse, but they're twins.
Right.
The virus has caused Starbucks to say people aren't coming into the store. People are realizing they don't have to come into the store, that they can get their coffee through the drive-through and go home and drink their coffee. So we're going to close up all of these stores now, and which means now you have a higher unemployment rate.
Right.
What happens because you have 58% of just young people? It's not including 58% of us, I won't call us seniors, but us older people that are out of work. What happened, and I heard one complex here in North Carolina gave all of their residents the option of getting out of their lease and moving out or paying a little bit at a time. What happens now when you have these evictions?
Sir,
and now, go ahead.
Let me tell you something. The church community, as well as our other organizations that's fighting for Black Lives Matter, our voices have to be heard in that area also. Because now we got to do more than prophesy to the people.
Okay.
Now we have to go out and fight for the people. Right here in my city of Farmville, they had 12 families that was going to be evicted out of the housing project, who came crying and said, I have nowhere to go. They said, if I had somewhere else to go, I would not be living in the projects.
Wow.
So the white management who was going to evict them, listen to me, with no remorse. And so when I spoke with her, she had no remorse. I got together with the NAACP. We sent letters all the way to Ben Carson, who was about as much help as dropping a drop of water in the ocean. So we finally had to send.
He should know about this area.
He should know. We finally ruffled feathers in Greensboro, where the head office is. We finally had to acquire an attorney to shut down this woman trying to evict 12 African-American families.
Wow.
All right. So what are you saying? What am I saying? I'm saying that the voice of the prophet must be heard. The voice of the prophet must be heard. And we cannot underestimate our influence in our city. I say this boldly while we live online. I've had three calls from the mayor in the last 2 weeks. Where are we? And that's where we should be, where the mayors are calling the prophets of the city. I say it all the time that this thing would get back right when the church becomes the conscience of America.
Right.
When those who sit in high places would do what Zedekiah did in the time when the nation was in turmoil, when the nation was going through, and Zedekiah being the ruler, the king, and did not know what to do. He turned to who? The prophet. Jeremiah, tell me something. Is there a word from the Lord? Because he didn't know what to do.
Right.
And had not Jeremiah spoke to him, the nation would have stayed in turmoil until somebody turns in the right direction to the prophets of the nation.
Wow. Apostle, you said that, and I've heard that several times, not from the prophet, but I've heard it from people who are saying, what is the prophet saying?
Oh.
And there are a lot of times the prophet is saying, well, I see, because I've asked, okay, prophet, what is happening in America? What is happening in the world? And the response I've gotten was, well, what I see is, uh, there's a financial blessing coming. There's in 72 hours, you're going to get a check in a minute. Look, now
Sir, I see something different.
I'm going to give you the screen. Go
I
for it.
see something different. I see a reenactment of Habakkuk, the third chapter. When
Hmm.
Habakkuk looked at the turmoil of the nation and went to God and said, I can't talk to them until you talk to me. And
Hmm.
when God spoke to Habakkuk and told Habakkuk, prophet, this is what's going to happen. Though the fig tree will not blossom, though the olive tree will not yield any olive, though the cattle not be in the stall, he talked about things getting worse before
Uh-huh.
it gets better. I'm not here, listen to me, whatever you hear, you hear, all right? But what I hear is that it's going to get worse before it gets better. So no, I don't see you with a house in 30 days. I don't see you with a prosperity breakthrough in 2 weeks. I don't think you're going to jump up, turn around 10 times, and guess what? Your credit score about to clear up. No, your credit score is probably about to go down because your income is going to go down. You're not going to be able to pay your bills. And like Rebecca said, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but better is coming after worse.
Yes, sir. All
Let's
right.
not overlook the fact that it's headed where it is headed. Sir,
Mm-hmm.
if Dr. Foster is right and we're headed for a second wave, and the second wave is said to be worse than the first wave,
Mm.
sir, that means it's going to get worse
Wow.
before it gets better.
Wow.
Now, we're not like a squirrel who has sense enough to stir up some nuts for the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what did we do with our stimulus check?
I
Let,
don't
let,
have.
let me talk to my African American brothers and sisters. What did you store up? Buying 50-inch televisions and doing things. Did you store up anything in light of the fact and buying Jordan sneakers? Sir, you're telling the truth. So we have to have wisdom. Everything, sir, everything is not done to us.
Right.
We do have some self-inflicted wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And we
That's
do
right.
have to make something better for ourselves. And when it comes to this thing right here, listen here, I see it getting worse before it gets better, but I also see that we have an opportunity to store up and be prepared for the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph got them ready for
Mm-hmm.
7 years of famine.
All right.
Every prophet needs to be talking to their people, getting their
Yes.
people ready for the season that's coming that's worse
Right.
than what it is. No, it's
Yes.
not a time to go buy a new car.
Right.
It's not a time to go buy new St. John suits. It's not a time to go see your tailor. No, it's time to store for a season that's going to get worse before it gets better. But if you hold on buying the car, and enough of us hold on buying that car, when the season called worse is over, you'll have a better price to deal with.
Wow. Man, I'm gonna tell you, you preaching up in here. We
Sir, I tell you,
I
man.
mean, you mentioned self-inflicted wounds. We as blacks, we have a tendency to step back and say, they cut me, they cut me. But you gave them the knife to cut you with.
Right.
Because in America we are we talked about this at some point this week with all these shows, the three levels that we are. You have producers, you have distributors, and you have consumers, and we are number one when it comes to consumers.
Consumers. That's right.
But the problem is we can't stick together and control anything.
That's right. That's right.
We can't. Have a question for you, Apostle. A question from R.J. Stevenson, who says, "What can the apostles of today's church do to sustain the tension of protest so we can realize change on our nation and communities?"
Listen, I often say this right here that the shepherd's voice is a John Maxwell Leadership 101. Leadership is influence. Bottom line, leadership is influence. For every person in the street protesting, wonder how many of them are members of somebody's church. How many of those persons have a pastor? Having said that, how many pastors have addressed the tension of the protests? How many have given guidelines for protesting? You know, I think to sustain the tension of the protest, you know, can realize change. Yes, I think that the voice of the prophet can help out with this right here by speaking into the life of our people and telling them the potential of change and what's going to actually bring the change. I hope I'm hitting this where this person is asking, and
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think you hit it that we have to speak up. That the voice of the pastor is one thing, because you probably have a lot of pastors that step back in the corner and just said, so, then you have some that were like me when the protest hit, especially down in Atlanta. I was saying, yeah, I need to go to Atlanta, especially when they looted the Louis Vuitton store. I'm saying, let me go down there and get me a couple bags. You have some, but there is tension. But I guess the question that RJ was asking was,
I'm trying to see it.
what can the apostles do? Because of your broader scope of leadership, because you have churches that you oversee. And maybe if RJ is still with us, maybe you can rephrase that question in a better way for Apostle to answer it,
Yeah,
uh, to sustain the tension of protest. I'm not sure I'm getting that question myself.
yeah,
So we can realize change on our nation and communities. I'm not sure whether you're asking to uh, help calm the tension
yeah,
so that we can see change, because
yeah.
the protests really, in my opinion, most people feel like march all you want. I don't care. You're not getting anything
Yeah.
done by just marching.
I think this is the 19th day of the march, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm. Yes,
The
I think.
19th
Yeah.
day of the march.
Hmm.
And so I think that, the question is, whose attention can we get?
Okay.
All right. Because we're getting people's attention that's making changes on their level. The problem is we're not getting the commander in chief attention. You know, this is the man who sits in the top chair, who has the gavel in his hand, but the march does not phase him. The protesting does not phase him in a way that he will make a decision to create change. Here's a person who says, okay, we're addressing racism. Everybody's making changes. You got Nancy Pelosi who takes a knee the other day. And then you have a person who says, let's go back to all of our military bases and let's pull everything that looks like Confederate. And a president who steps in and says, don't do it.
Oh, now you got something to say.
Now you have something to say. You know. Okay, the stimulus checks were used to stimulate spending outside pocket meditation.
Right. This is we took their stimulus
Yeah,
check. We took it outside. Now, Apostle, uh, the protest. I would think that not only is it the person at the top you're not hearing from, but to me, more important, or just as importantly, what are we hearing from those in our local communities?
sir. Here we are again for those activists on the local level, for those activists, for those pastors. In every city,
Mhm.
there's a pastor. You know, and I'm telling you, this is a season where the church has a choice to shine
Mhm.
or to own up to what we've been accused of being, that is a sleeping giant.
Mhm.
Not only has America been awakened, but the church has been awakened. So
Mhm.
which means every pastor needs to know who their community leaders are. Who is your mayor? Who is your senator? Who is your governor? And do they know who you are? When the man pick up the phone and call me, it's because I've ruffled some feathers. It is because I have muddied the water. It is because I have spoken up. The
Well,
answer to your question is that
uh-huh.
we have got to speak up and be heard.
Now, that sounds true. That sounds good. We speak up and be heard at the voting booth.
Oh yes,
But I
but
want to
before
ask.
that,
I want right before that, we need to deal with it on the lower level, on the local level,
right,
because the local level is where we get the answers and we get the changes that we need in our backyard. Because
right,
those at the top, a lot of them are the president, just a figurehead, so to speak. Not
right,
saying he doesn't have any power, because he does have the gavel, as you said. But if you start getting some of these, your local elected officials, start holding them accountable
That's
for.
right.
I believe it was Warren Buffett who said, "I can fix the United States economy in 5 minutes." He said, "In 5 minutes, I can fix it. All you have to do is change the make an amendment to the Constitution that says that if the United States ever hits a deficit, and where we are at a deficit for 30 days, that every sitting official can't be reelected." He said, "Watch them change it."
There you are. You're dead on it, sir. And that's what I was going to say. In my small city where I pastor, there's a divide of the city called the railroad track. It has
Okay.
been it has been something in existence far beyond my days of birth. It has been what divided the white and the black community. It has been what is said when the money is available, it is spent on the north side of the tracks, which is the white community, and the south side of the track is really a railroad track that divides the town. And so when the last mayor was elected and people had questions, I said to them, no, we hold him to the fire.
Mhm.
And if we don't see dollars being spent
Right.
on
Right.
the south side of the track, he's
Right.
a one-term mayor.
Mhm.
Bottom line, we can create change from the local level if
Right.
if we make ourselves be heard on the local level and hold them accountable. If you want to be a one-term mayor, if you want to be a one-term commissioner, keep voting the way you vote. Keep making decisions the way you make them. Keep putting money on the white folk area and put nothing in the poor people area and see how long.
Apostle, let me ask you a question. Who is, and this isn't, this is nothing to be, this is no secret information I'm getting ready to ask you. This is public knowledge. What is the name of your county commissioner?
My county commissioner, I'm telling you, uh, Rogers, and then we have
Just one.
okay, there you go, and then uh, Moore is our mayor.
How many people in your town? You said the small town, Farmville.
Hmm.
How many people on a percentage have no idea who their elected officials are?
Too many. Even after the uproar that we went through with the mayor, there's still people who do not know the mayor when they see him or know his name. You know, and what I told a good advocate woman, a woman of God who's very, very vocal here, I said, we just got a little bit of time to get to everybody in the city. Number one, they need to know who the mayor is. They need to know what he's doing, what he's not doing. So when the election come back around, we will have them educated whether or not he's keepable or damnable.
We have a lot of comments, and I love these comments. Thank you all for posting your comments. One that's on the screen, I think, is a powerful conversation. We have the supply, which is the money.
Yes.
I've never felt as though the African American community doesn't have the money. Although we say, man, I'm broke. I ain't got nothing. We got money. Just go to your local Walmart and look around. Go to Food Line. The question Mr. Wright asked was, now we have to make the demands. Apostle, let me ask it like this. And those that watch this show on a regular basis are used to hearing this question asked in this way. I've come from Philadelphia.
Hmm.
There's a movie out with Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks came out years ago called Philadelphia, in which Denzel Washington was an attorney. Tom Hanks was his client. There was a scene in the movie Philadelphia in which Denzel Washington had one of his witnesses on the stand, and Denzel asked the question, "Explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old." I want to ask you this question that Mr. Wright asked, but I want you to explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old. What are the demands of the African American here in 2020? If we can go to the table, if we can go all the way to the top, if we can just travel to the White House right now tonight and say, I'm here at the top, I'm meeting with the president, with Nancy Pelosi, with Chuck Schumer, I'm meeting with what's the Republic, the head of the House, the head of the Senate, good, I don't, As much as I know his name, I watch him all the time. I'm meeting with all of these guys. And they said to me, what are the demands of African Americans here in 2020? What would I say to them is our number one, or what am I asking?
Number one, we have to be able to live. And Jesus said, the poor you have with you always, but it wasn't supposed to be a whole race of people.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need to have a minimum wage increase. What we're demanding is living wage increase. Increase us to be able to live on a decent level. What do we
Mm-hmm.
need? We need attention to the poor people.
Okay.
You know, but why? Because everyone turns their head from the man under the bridge. You know, programs have been shut down. Money has been taken away to take care of those that are homeless. All right. So we need protection. You know, we need protection from the ones that's supposed to be protecting us, but yet killing us. And Bishop, your question is a valid question. I want to tell you why. Because just today, number 45 says that when you question the protesters, he said they don't know what they want. That was his exact words today. So the fact that you posed that question is the question that everybody who's taken to the streets, everyone who's watching on tonight, get out your ink pen. What is the need of the black man? What is the need of the black community? What's lacking in our community? All right. In the city of Farmville, there is no activities for the African American children. You know, if you put a skating ring, an ice skating ring across town, all right, I'm sorry. Black folks skate on four wheels, not a thin blade. If you shut down the community pool, then the black kids have nowhere to go during the summertime. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you keep out the Dave and Buster, then there's no activity for what is the need of the community? You know.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, but Apostle, that's true. I mean, because if you ask the average person now after watching the video of George Floyd, what do you want? Why are you protesting? They're saying Black Lives Matter, and we want, we don't want the police to, we. It's more than that,
It's
isn't it?
more
It's
than that.
more than just. And I'm not saying that that's not important,
Mhm.
because it is important. Most of us that are watching, if you have the same color or complexion that I do, I know what it's like to ride, and when you see that police car pass you, to look up in the mirror to think, "Uh-oh, what did I?" And I didn't do
Right.
anything.
Mhm.
You're thinking, if I ever get pulled, I need to get out and just be compliant. That's not diminishing that, but what we want and what we need and what we're lacking in our communities is more than that. And
Right.
unfortunately, uh, I hate to say it like this, Apostle, and correct me if I'm wrong. Most of us don't know what we want.
We don't know what we want. I asked the question, right here in my city. I have to go back to where I'm working. What do we need? Number one, we need 3 African Americans serving on the board of commission. Why? Because all we need is 3 to shift the money from the north side of the track to the south side.
Mm-hmm.
So while you hollering about police brutality, which in the city of Farmville has not been a problem, so when we march, what are we marching for?
What are you marching for? Right.
You know, we need to be talking about how to get 3 black folk on the board.
Okay.
That's going to change how the poor is being handled. That's going to change where the money is being spent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh man,
Right, because when you talk about that, when you mention that, Apostle, where the money's being spent, we can get into the concept of redlining, in which all of the money is spent, the values, the land value in a particular district is so low,
oh
and
yeah,
that's where because the value is so low, the money isn't spent on education because the taxes aren't so low.
Right.
And so that's why those outside of our district have so much more coming into education. And isn't that a part of what we would call systematic racism, because it's something that is keeping us uneducated?
Yes. Yes. Right. And you said that, and I had wrote down here earlier. I talked about systemic racism.
Hmm.
In America, which is part of our education system. That you see systematic racism there. All right, where you have a difference in the quality of education and materials, even now in our schools on one side of town versus our schools in the other side of town. How do you know? I know for myself that exists. Why? Because when I moved, I intentionally moved into the other neighborhood to
Hmm.
put my children in the other school
Right.
where it was better facilities,
Right.
teachers,
Right.
quality of teachers, and then everything that the school provided over here that was not over there.
And it will allow the children to stay over there.
That's right.
And what it is doing is it's keeping our children over here. So you have a cycle. You're born in what, in Philly, what we call the hood. You
Mhm.
go to school in the hood. You're educated in the hood to stay in the hood.
Right. Right.
But go ahead.
Yeah. In 1954, they deemed that segregation was no longer constitutional. Okay, and so it is.
Hmm.
But yet, you still have systematic racism by those in elected local offices. They say, yeah, black and white folk are going to school together, but
Hmm.
when we divide up this district, we're going to divide it up by the neighborhoods. So, in their own creative way, they're still sending the majority of black folk to one side of town,
Hmm.
white folk to another side of town. They wouldn't call it segregation, but they call it redistricting.
Redistricting. Right.
And then they control where the money goes. That's systemic racism.
And I hope this doesn't sound, please forgive me, Apostle, anyone else, that when I say this, that has nothing to do with the president.
No, no, that's local.
That's local. And what we need to do, as Brandon M. Everett just posted, if everyone addresses the local problems, then we can have collective change.
Hmm.
I think we're focusing on, make America great again. How we can make America great for the first time is if we do it together on the local level, one little bit, at a time. Um, I'm trying to think. I have a good analogy. We talk about. I am. I'm African American, and anyone can look at me and tell. You and I, we can't deny it. We can't be. We couldn't convince anyone we weren't African American if our name was Spiro Agnew. Everyone would know we're African American. My complexion isn't one piece. It's made up of many pigmentations,
Right.
many little dots in my skin that make me this complexion. If we come together on the local level in every little town, every little city, every little here in North Carolina, I like to call it every little Mayberry, we can do something to change the complexion of this nation.
Sir, I agree with you 100%. If
Big word.
we come together,
Right.
and I was talking to someone who works on the commission, and with this in regards to PPP loan, and they said, well, it really gets down to who you know, not whether or not you're qualified for it. So then I asked the lady at the bank, but what ratio have African American churches been approved for this loan? She couldn't
Mhm.
give me a number, but she was the one approving the loans. And
Not the oh, so wait a minute. President Trump didn't do.
oh, no, 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 that was local. And that's why I came online and I say every pastor needs to have a relationship with the president or the vice president of the bank that you send your money to every Sunday. Why have you been not approved for this PPP loan that's going to be forgiven?
Mhm.
You know, but our white brothers and sisters are not complaining because they're getting checks. And I say this because I've talked to the white pastors, And so my thing was, okay, we need to go down there together and say why they rejected, I'm rejected, he rejected, and all of us are African American pastors who've been turned down.
Wow.
The key thing you said, Bishop, if we could
If
just come together.
I said this. I'm not sure. This is Friday, Apostle. This is the fifth broadcast, so I don't know what day I said it, but I talked about how I worked on a job one time, and all of the workers were very upset with the working conditions. And I said, listen, all it will take is one day in which everyone on the job just said, I'm not coming to work. I'm not coming to
Amen.
work. They're not going to get rid of everyone. They're not going to fire everyone. They're going to have to listen to what you want because you control the company.
That's
The
right.
problem is everyone's not going to stay out. Someone's going to say, well, you know what? I got to go to work. So I said that to say this, that's the biggest word in the English vocabulary is if.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we work together?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
What is with we can't do it in the black church. And that's why we have so many churches
Yeah.
scattered out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm telling you something. There's power in that if we could just come together. Yeah, and I keep going back to that thing, and I've talked to some who may have been afraid that they're didn't know how to completely do the financial work,
Mm-hmm.
paperwork. I said that's fine. We just need to come together. We have a CPA who can do everybody's paperwork, you know, and then go down there and demand an answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if this CPA did my paperwork and it was right, does yours and yours and yours and it's right, but these African American churches are being rejected.
So, Apostle, let me ask you this, and let me ask you this: you have a church in Farmville, and we don't need to know the name of the bank. We'll just call it Bank of Farmville. I hope that's not an actual name because if it is, I just got in trouble. But just say you bank at the Bank of Farmville, and you decided that you wanted to build a better facility,
Mhm.
and you have proven to be faithful and doing what you're supposed to do. What would happen if you went to the Bank of Farmville and said, "Listen, I'm not going to, you can see that we've been good stewards over our money. We have a good track record. We have the ability. We have everything listed out here. We have the ability to pay the loan back, whatever we're going to do. We, we came to get our money to build. And if that bank says, even thinks about saying no, here I come with you. What happens if all of us came to the bank? You got 10 local pastors
That's
all
right.
come to the bank and say, we're here not to get a loan. We're here because we all bank here. Give him the money.
Right.
Number, or you can talk about that, or a scenario number two. What if we own the bank?
Amen. Now, two things. You're on good. That's good conversation right there. Number one, I think there's a lot of power in unified voices to
Mm-hmm.
show up at the bank when it's not your fight, your personal fight, but
Right.
you're coming together because it is a fight. You
Right.
know, well, all of us will be faced with it at some season of
Right.
our life. But if I help you fight, the next time you come help me fight.
Right.
You know, and I think that there's power in those unified voices together in the banking institution. I keep going back to it when I wanted these brothers to come. Let's go down to the bank, 10, 15 of us at one time, and say, hey, why are the African American banks, churches been approved this loan? That says something. Number one, they don't want the media attention. And number two, you don't want your book looked at to say, hey, you know what? They have not been approving African American churches
Right.
and whose paperwork is in line.
Uh-huh.
I want to say that, Bishop, because people think that when the African American church is not approved for something, that their paperwork is not right. No, we're not ignorant. Those days are behind us. We have CPAs working our stuff now. So our paperwork, our business is straight. Our business is in line. Let's not overlook systemic racism.
Right. Let's talk about this, Apostle Ben. You talk about systematic racism. Um, uh, We talked about voting on the local level. And to
Yes, sir.
me, that is highly important. We have to vote on the local level. However, what about, there are two things I want to talk about on the local level and a national level. Young man that was on with us made this comment. The young people, my young friends, are voting. We voted last election. It's going to be hard to get them to vote in November. The reason why it's going to be hard to get the younger people and a lot of older people to vote in November, he said, because we grew up thinking in school that when you vote, whoever got the most votes was the winner. He said when we voted in 2016, we looked up and saw that Hillary Clinton got the most votes, but because of the outdated electoral college, the person with the most votes didn't win. And so I said, you know what? You're going into an election in November when every candidate knows, when Joe Biden and Donald Trump both know, I'm not even worried about some states because I already know where they're going. I'm not worried about the numbers. If I can win the swing states, if I can win Michigan, if I can win Ohio, if I can win Pennsylvania, if I can win Florida, then I'll win the election.
Right.
What do you say to a young person that's discouraged about the hope of voting, feeling as though my vote doesn't count?
Well, first of all, Bishop,
And
we have to give
then we'll talk about another part of that.
we have to first give them a history lesson.
Okay.
You know, let's not let the footsteps of Martin Luther be in vain.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not let the footsteps of those who fought for a voter reformation for us. Let's not forget those who fought so you could go to the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if for no other reason, look in the rearview mirror at the footsteps with blood at the bottom of the shoe. Also, you could go in and pull a lever.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What little difference you can make with your ink pen filling out the bubble?
Mm-hmm.
It's your obligation as
Mm-hmm.
an African American to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a vote. If you take my vote and flush it down the toilet, I'm gonna fill out the paper. Too much of a price, and this is what our younger generation. I love them, but sometimes they forget the value of the rearview mirror.
All right.
They must look in the rearview mirror and see their grandmother and
Mm-hmm.
see their great grandmother and
Mm-hmm.
see back in 1950, 1960, where there was a fight for it,
Mm-hmm.
and say to themselves, I can't let what they could not do that I am able to do, I can't let this be in vain.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
we can't control electoral votes, how everything is set up, and how the election turned out. But we can control educating them on taking advantage of the right that you have. The fact that you stay home, you give those who wanted to give voter suppression, you give them what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. You know, Apostle, that I would join you in that answer by saying this. What I just said. There are states like North Carolina, which they consider to be what, a red state,
Mm-hmm.
that when we vote, it's already halfway decided it's going to be a Republican. Well, just because you don't vote just because you know that a Republican is going to win the state doesn't mean you don't vote, no
That's
matter
right.
which direction you vote. So I thank you for that. Part B of that. Now here's the tricky part. Here's the twin to that question. Systemic racism. I can't vote. Now when I say I'm not talking about myself. I'm
Yeah.
talking I can't vote. You want to know why I can't vote? And again, not me. I can vote. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
registered voter. Just for those that are watching to say what happened. The reason why I can't vote is because as a young man, I hung with the wrong crowd. I made a big mistake.
Right. Right. Right.
I messed up. I was caught one night. I've got 6 little children and I lost my job. I got desperate. I didn't know how I was going to feed my children. And man, I let my cousin Ray and them talk me into robbing the 7-Eleven.
Mm-hmm.
And I only way I can rob the 7-Eleven was with a gun. I was 19 years old. I didn't know how I was going to feed my children. Uh, I got caught. I had to serve some time. I served my time, but now I have a felon felony on my record, which means I can't vote, which means I can't get a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I have no voice in society because I can't vote. When my children get hungry again because I don't have a good job, I may end up trying to do something else again. It's a cycle, and I'm paying for something that I already paid for years ago.
Mm-hmm. And I can vote. So I
Right.
want to vote for every brother that cannot vote.
Wow, that's good.
For every brother
Wow,
that got
that's good.
snagged by the system, caught up in the system, and
Uh-huh.
cannot pull the lever. Hey,
Hmm.
I'm gonna put my button on that says I'm pulling for my brother that can't pull.
All right.
Amen.
So what do we do? What do we do to
Sir,
I
you
mean, because it's not what I'm saying is it's not right that I have to keep paying a perpetual penalty for something that I did years ago.
Mhm.
I mean, I messed up and I'm still paying for it because now you won't even let me vote. I mean, I appreciate you voting for me.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I appreciate you voting for me, Apostle. But why can't something be done where I can vote for myself? And I know Florida and Arizona are passing laws that say that you can vote again
Yeah.
as a felon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what about North Carolina? What about Michigan? What about Ohio? What about Mississippi? What about South Carolina? Man,
Sir.
I appreciate you voting for me. My home, I'm saying it like I'm a young man.
Yeah.
Homie, I appreciate you voting for me, homie, but I want to vote for
Where
myself.
can I
You
vote
know
for
why?
myself? Yeah.
Because let me do this real quick, Apostle. If you just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna tell you why I want to vote for myself. I'm gonna show you why, and you may remember this. I got my little board here because I keep notes. I want to vote for myself because
I am a man.
I'm a man.
That's right.
And as a man, I don't want you to have to vote for me. I want to vote for myself, but I live in a society
Yeah.
that's telling me I'm not a man once I made one mistake that somebody else made and didn't get caught.
So, Bishop, that goes right back to where we were before. Change on the local level to the state level.
Hmm. Wow.
You
But
know.
we focusing on the White House.
Yeah. And that's not where change is going to always take place.
Wow.
You know. Our influence in our community, it leads our community to our state level.
Hmm.
If we start making change and crying in our local communities and make them cry up to the state level, and we follow the cry to make sure they're crying right on behalf of us, you know, that's the only way those on the state level go back to Washington, D.C. with the cry of the community.
Can we put down as the comment that you see on the bottom from Pat Ford that says change the laws? One of the things blacks want to change so felons can vote. Is that something going back to our question that we asked a long time ago? We've been on here a long time. One of the questions that we asked is this one of the things we say we want?
You know what? This should be on the list. And this is why camaraderie is good because we need to know what we want, write down what we want, and march with purpose.
Because you talk about the White House, Pennsylvania, one of the states, I don't know, it's Pennsylvania, New York, one of the states that was won by 20,000 votes, or I'm not sure the number. When you look at the number of eligible felons who couldn't vote, it
Yeah,
would have swung the entire.
way the difference. That's right.
So you don't want me to vote.
Right. 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 And
So we
again,
gotta go
and
ahead.
again, our system is set up, or it is as it is, with predominantly what African Americans who are in that situation that cannot vote.
Cannot vote. And it's been this way. We've got to change the system because Apostle, it's amazing. We talk about the Constitution. Someone said it wasn't written with us in mind. Uh, of course not, because the ones that wrote it were slave owners.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to read this question and we're going to let you go. I don't know about you, but I have enjoyed this. Diamond Destiny says, this pandemic, let me get it up here on the screen because it's so much. This pandemic, anytime you wrote this much, it's got to be good. This pandemic happened for a reason. God wants us to come together and realize this is an opportunity of change. This fight here is going to better everyone's life if they come together. So many people are out of work that this is the time for us to open up them history books, learn a little history, and learn the different levels of the government, and learn about all these candidates. One final point that we've got to hit, R.J. Stevenson again. We'll take it out with this comment: felons are counted in the census, but not counted in the voting process. So
Sir,
that's powerful.
that's a good powerful tool to work with.
Powerful.
That's a
So
good powerful tool to work with. And
I,
the statement you
go
read
ahead.
before that, Bishop, is a very good statement from the young lady who you just read. And I agree with everything she said. The change has to come from being educated with our history and all that good stuff. That is so true.
Mhm.
Uh, Let me share this with you before you log us off.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is, Apostle, I want to thank you for joining
Oh,
us.
yes,
What I'm
sir.
going to do is I'm going to give you the floor to speak to however you want to speak to us. I'm just going to get out the way and give you the screen, and you can say what it is you have to say to us, and then we'll tell you our final goodbyes for the evening.
Yes, sir. Sir, you know, above.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
listen,
you were on. I just got out of the way. You just had the screen to yourself.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Here I am. This past weekend, 2 weekends ago, we did a march in Farmville. And after doing the march, and I was the keynote speaker, and my subject was, "Can you hear me now?" I watched white and black people standing around as I gave that speech. Can you hear me now? When we took the kneel for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, while kneeling, I looked around, and the only people who I saw not kneeling was a few white people who would not kneel after the powerful speech. When it was over, the Lord said to me, "Your speech will not change them alone." And then he led me to the scripture that says, "A heart is fixed by the circumcision." The heart has to be circumcised. And it says, "The spirit will fix the heart, not the letter." So above everything, as the preacher signed off for tonight, I would say, Bishop, you and I, every prophet, every preacher, must keep preaching, going after the heart of man. Because even after our marching, even after our demonstrations, listen here, we may change laws, and I pray that we do, but will we change hearts? Because if the heart of man is not changed, we'll change a few laws, but if the heart of man is not changed, they'll come back and circumvent and find a way to undo what has been done to satisfy or to pacify us, America, for a little while. The Spirit said, until the heart of man is changed, he said the letter won't do it, only the Spirit will. Preacher to preacher, we got to keep on preaching for the heart of man. From the White House to my house, change come to a nation when a nation's heart has been changed. God bless you, and thank you for this time.
Apostle, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. This was wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It doesn't seem like we were on that long, but there's an old saying that time flies when you're having fun. And man, we were going at it. I enjoyed this.
Enjoy
I
your Bishop.
and I thank you so much. And hopefully you'll consent to coming back with us in the future.
Anytime you call me, man.
All
Anytime.
right. I really appreciate that, man. You have a wonderful and blessed rest of your weekend.
Yes, sir. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
Bless you.
Want to thank Apostle McNair for joining us tonight. This was a powerful conversation. It was a powerful dialogue. We got into some heavy things, and the things that we got into, we wanted to challenge you. Wanted to challenge you, my friends. I want to challenge you heading out. I want to challenge you going into the weekend to make sure that you get in touch with your local officials. Make sure you find out Who's sitting in that house? We asked a question earlier that I think was very powerful. Most people don't know who their elected officials are. You'd be surprised who doesn't know who their county commissioners are, who their city council members are, who their state representatives are. We don't know who our senators are. We need to know these things, and we need to put a demand on them. We need to take some time to tell them, write down, think, email them, Google, find out something, find out who they are, and email them and tell them we need some laws changed. I think Brother R.J. Stevenson said it so greatly and so profoundly. I'm counted in the census, but I'm not counted enough in your heart for me to vote. Do that. Do that. We will make a change. We can make a change one vote at a time, one voice at a time. Listen, I don't know how many of you have gone to church, but the greatest voice you hear is not that of that person that's standing there talking. The most beautiful sound in a church is not the sound of that preacher, no matter how eloquent, how grandiose he is or she is. The most beautiful voice in a church service is that of a choir coming together. We have it. We said it earlier, how people, we're influenced by this. We're influenced by this, but somewhere on here, it says e pluribus unum, out of many are one. Listen, our many voices can make a difference. There are people that saying things will never change. I don't believe that, my friends. If you don't think that your voice can make a difference, if you don't think that you can change things, if you don't think that you can make a difference for your life, for your children's lives, for your grandchildren's lives, then don't get out of the bed in the morning. Lay there and just rot away. But if you think that you can make a difference, if you know you can make a difference, like Apostle McNair said, then get up out the bed and do something. Don't take what you heard and just let it sit there. Take what you heard and do something with it, because we can and we will make a difference. I say this, and I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of where I came from. My grandmother was first cousins with Harriet Tubman, and I'm not ashamed to declare who I am. First cousins twice removed. Somewhere in my blood, there's something that knows how to push people. I have it in my blood to tell people, listen, Harriet Tubman carried a gun. She carried a big one. The reason she carried a gun was not so she can shoot those that were coming after those she was leading to freedom. No, she had that gun because she was a little 5-foot woman that was leading men my size, 6'2", 300 pounds to freedom, who would get tired like many of us get tired. And little cousin Harry will pull that gun out and say, oh, you going to reach freedom. You've come too far to stop now. And I don't believe that God has brought us through dogs biting us, being sick on us. I don't believe he's brought us through hoses being shot at us. I don't believe he's brought us through 4 little girls being bombed in the church Sunday school on a Sunday morning. I don't believe he's brought us from a man like Medgar Evers being shot in his own driveway. I don't believe he's brought us through Tamar Rice playing with the cap gun, innocent little boy, or Trayvon Martin just out. I don't believe he brought us through Ahmaud Arbery just going for a jog. I don't believe he's brought us through seeing George Floyd choked. I don't believe he's brought us through Dr. King being assassinated. I don't believe he's brought us through all of that just for us to give up hope now because we don't have what we want on the table. Put it on the table. Make your voice heard so that we can end this. There are people, believe it or not, that don't ever want to see this thing come to pass, because the more it comes to pass, the less important they are. No doctor really gives you the medication to heal you, because then he's out of a job. But what he does is he gives you the medication to make you better, to work toward it. Listen, I believe in my heart of hearts that I can see, like many of you can, the light at the end of the tunnel. I believe, I made a vow a couple of weeks ago that I was going to fight with everything in me, so that when I shut my eyes for the last time, when I take my last breath, I may not be appreciated by a lot of people. There's some people that will never appreciate your value. There's some people that only want to get out of you what they can get out of you. But I made a vow that when I close my eyes for the last time, I'm going to do everything I can in me to make sure that this world that I leave behind to my daughter and granddaughters is a better world than it was when I came here over 50 years ago. And I believe you can do it. We're going to vote. And if you can't vote, we're going to vote and keep voting until we get the right people in there that are going to change our laws in this land to make sure that we have equal rights, that this nation will be one nation under God with liberty and justice for all, that all of us have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unfortunately, we haven't been happy recently, but if you keep fighting and pushing, you can do it. I want to challenge you tonight, my friends. Hit the share button, form a watch party. Just hit watch party. You don't have to watch it. Just put a watch party and other people will watch and hear what Apostle McNair had to say. Go to YouTube, subscribe to it so it'll keep flowing back and forth. We got to do this together. Go to the bank together, not the physical bank, but the bank of media, the bank of social media, and let's get this word out. I believe we can do it. As is stated on the screen tonight, I believe that that Jesus can open the eyes and minds of our young people so that we can have a generation. The Bible says this, my friends, that he called the old because we know the way, but he called the young because they're strong. If those that know the way can combine with those that are strong, we can come together and we can make a difference. We're going to make a difference at the church. We're going to make a difference on the street corner. We're going to make a difference at the voting polls. We're going to make a difference from the White House. We've already proven that we can make a difference at the White House level. We need to start making a difference at the lower level, this house, a difference in our local houses, not the White House, but the local houses. Find out who's running for office, hold them accountable. As Apostle McNair said, ask them, do you want to be a one-term commissioner? Do you want to be a one-term mayor? Do you want to be a one-term sheriff? If you don't represent all of us, if you don't meet our demands, listen, I hope this doesn't sound radical. I hope this doesn't sound wrong. And I hope I'm not put off of Facebook. Do you know we've had shows in which we talked about racism, in which they've eliminated the show off because we were too radical? They may pull us for what I'm about to say, but it's all right. You've already heard it. The African American community right now, after what happened a couple of weeks ago with George Floyd, my friends, we have an opportunity to hold this country hostage and say we're not letting go until you meet our demands. Tonight, we laid it on the table and we talked about what we want. I want my voting rights for my brother back. I want my brother to be able to hold this sign up high and say, I am a man, and have the same right. Listen, I'm putting my business out there on the street. I messed up. I did some things that I'm not proud of. I did some things that I never get on here and tell you I did. I did some things. Sure, when I was younger, I went into stores. I don't mind telling it. I'm putting my business in the street. I went into, maybe some of you can hit the like button if you're not ashamed, but I went in stores and I stole candy. I stole a pair of jeans out of department store because I didn't have any money. I wasn't working. Mama couldn't afford it. I didn't know how else to get the clothes. I wanted to look good like my other friends. And the only thing I knew how to do was go to the store and become a master thief. And I stole the basketball jerseys and I stole jeans. I felt bad about it. I really did. I felt bad about what I did. But here's the thing. I didn't get caught. Because I didn't get caught, I can go and vote in the next election. My brothers got caught. And because my brothers and my sisters got caught, it means that their voices have been stripped. They've been castrated. Their voices have been ripped. They don't have the ability to talk. My friends, that's not right. If I pay for a price, aren't you glad that when we messed up, that Jesus Christ, that God didn't give us an eternal sentence? He said, I forgive you. Either the blood of Jesus Christ washes us from sin, or it doesn't. If I messed up, if I committed a crime, I've served in my time. I asked God to forgive me. God forgave me, but yet you're going to hold it against me because you realize something, America, that the voice of the black man, that the voice of the black woman is more powerful than even we realize it. Well, I believe come November, I'm sorry, I don't mean to rant and rave and preach on a Friday night, but I believe that this is an hour when God is restoring the voice of the black man. But we need to know what to say, not to just go out and say we shall overcome, not to say kumbaya, not to get out and say, listen, we just want equal rights. No, you need to know what rights you're asking for. I want my vote back. I want my voice to be heard. I want this next generation to understand. I want my sons to realize that I am a man. How can I raise a son if I'm not a man? The question was asked earlier, where are our fathers? How could I be a father if America has stripped me of my manhood? If America has stripped me of my voice to be a man, my son can't look at me as a daddy when I'm telling my son to go vote and I can't vote because I'm telling him not to mess up, but I messed up, and because I messed up, I can't. Listen, my friends, I got to go. I'll be here all night talking to you about this because I'm passionate about us and I'm passionate about my brothers and I'm passionate about my people. And I love my people. And just because I love my people doesn't mean that I hate any other people. We're not white bashing. We're not Hispanic bashing. We're trying to get to where we need to be. And tonight, I thank you for watching us tonight and realizing that now we know what to ask for. We want to take our place in this society. Support us, my brothers and sisters. We need your help to come back on every day. We're coming on every day. We come on every day. We're shifting. We were coming on at noon when everything was shut down to give you something to watch. Now that we're back, we're going to start coming on in the evenings at 8 o'clock. Go to Eagle Austin, Cash App us, that $ Eagle Austin. Any amount will help us stay on the air. Any amount will help us to produce. Any amount will help us to promote this show so that we can get more voices. It's not about getting this ugly face out into the world. It's about getting our voices heard. And if we can hit the share button, if we can do a watch party, if you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, it is a way of allowing us to have our voice heard, because that's what we're going to start preaching now. Listen, our black men, and I'm saying this because I am a black man. I know there are sisters out there that have felony records, but I'm talking to the black brothers today. I'm talking on my way out. I want to say this. I'm talking about our black brothers. Our black brothers have been locked up and their voices have been heard. I told you who my first cousins twice removed is, Harriet Tubman. They call her Black Moses. I want to speak on behalf of Black Moses, and I want to speak on behalf of Moses in the Old Testament. God is saying to the nation of Pharaoh, which is the United States, let my people go. That's what I'm saying. Let my black brothers go. Sure, they messed up. If you had educated us better, if you had given us the opportunity that we deserve, we wouldn't have committed the crimes that is holding us back. We're not placing the blame game on you. We're saying, let's just erase the slate clean. We messed up because we didn't have an opportunity. Help us to be educated. And when you educate us, we won't do the things that you locked us up for, and you're going to lock us up forever. No, I'm sorry. You're not going to get away with America. We're going to stand up. We're going to fight, and our voices are going to be heard. And with everything in me, we're going to do it. But I need your support. I need your help, not just financially, but get in touch with your local officials and tell them we want our voices. If it happened in Florida, where the Supreme Court said, all you have to do, listen, once in Florida, they said all you have to do is pay a fee, pay the restitution, pay a penalty. Well, that was an under the table way of keeping them down, because now all of a sudden you're telling the guy that's been in prison for 6 years to come out and pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get his voice back. No, but the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. So now brothers in Florida have their voice back. Our brothers in Arizona have their voice back. Whatever state you're in, we can do this. We can do this, and we're going to do it together. I appreciate you. When they get their voice back, now let's build our banks. Let's have our own schools. Let's teach them so that they can be educated on how to do it. Listen, I'm sorry, but I got to say this on the way out. There's an old saying I keep saying on the way out. My daughter always tells me when I preach, I have about 5 or 6 closings. My last closing is this. There's an old saying that if you give a man a fish, he'll eat today. If you teach him how to fish, he'll eat tomorrow. I want to add something. If you show me how to own the pond, I'll eat forever, and I'll charge everyone else to come fish in my pond. Let's educate our next generation. We can do it. My friends, I appreciate you. When you go to bed tonight, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, did I do something today to work toward making my nation, my community, my town a better place? Or did I simply waste another day of my life? Thank you all for your support. I see it's been flowing in already. It means so much to us. We're going to get this job done one show at a time, one broadcast at a time. Hit me up. Go in the comment section. This is what I want you to do. Put the name of someone that you want to see on this show, and I'll invite them on. I promise you I'll get them on and talk about the issues. Have a great rest of the week. And remember, I love you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Thank you for watching. Sign of the times.